and welcome to talkBULL, your weekly Premier League darts podcast, coming to you every single Friday up until the end of May. Take a look at this, by the way, eh? No more, well, hopefully, no more tiny little meeting room. We've got ourselves a studio. Absolutely unbelievable. Exeter, done and dusted. Luke Humphries, world number one, winning his second night of the Premier League 2025, beating Luke Littler for the first time in the Premier League. Can't believe I'm saying that. I can't even believe that is a record, and I can't believe... Jesus, how can I actually can't really believe that Luke Littler didn't win the whole thing last night because he was on fire. Coming up, we will be speaking to Mr. Amarillo himself, former world number one, three-time world finalist, Peter Manley. Same old story again with Michael van Gerwen. We'll look ahead to everything at the UK Open as the darts returns to Butlins and Minehead. And I'm glad to say that joining me down the line is my very good friend, Mr. Sharky himself, Colin Lloyd. How are we, Lloydie?
Morning, Harry. How's things?
All good, mate. All good. I wish you were here right now. Listen, you've probably never seen me in such a lovely environment as this. I mean, I could have probably put a shirt on, but I'm currently packing up my house because I got accepted for a new flat. But that doesn't matter. I mean, it's Friday morning, Premier League darts. And before we kick off, right, I did, obviously, before coming in here, I watched the Premier League. It'd be weird if I didn't. I watch darts every single week if it's the Pro Tour, if it's a major tournament. But as I was preparing for my research of Peter Manley, and I'd like to thank Dan Darts Dawson for this one, because I was listening to his interview that he did with Peter, so I could get a little feel for it, and he said something unbelievable, and you've never mentioned this to me as well. He said, when we did the podcast with Lloydie, we were in a bar, and Lloydie said and turned around to me, did I never tell you the time when I saved Bobby George's life? So, all right. I don't think you've said this on a podcast, so we've got exclusive rights now for you to tell this story. We're going to take it and get 10 million views. Jaws, over to yours. How did you save Bobby George's life? Go.
I'm not telling you. Stop being nosy.
Oh, come on. It was said on a podcast.
No. I tell you what it was I go and see Bobo quite often. And it was a cold, wet winter's day. And he asked me to go and help him do a couple of things down on his lakes, because Bobby's got fishing lakes. Mm. And I was round on one side of the lake and doing some bits, and I started to walk round towards him, and he slipped and went into the water. But what Bobby had the big waders on. Mm. And so obviously they're going to start filling up with water. Bobby's a big enough, heavy enough lump on his own, let alone with them waders filling up as well. So I sprinted round the lake as fast as I could, and I grabbed hold of him. By this time, he was up to about there. And it's wet, it's raining, it's cold, it's horrible. And I got hold of him by the scruff. Yeah. And then he just clamped his arms onto me, and he started pulling me in. I said, Bobby, you've just got to relax a little bit. Yeah. I said, you've got to relax, mate, otherwise you're going to pull me in as well. So not only, Harry, did I have like Bobby's 19 stone, whatever it was at the time, I had the weight of the wellies and everything, or the waders, I should say, because they're the big strap-on waders that you put on. Yeah. That was full of water. There's probably another couple of stone there. And I dug my heels in, and I was quite a big, strong enough lad then.
You still are.
I managed to sort of like dig my heels in. I gradually started leaning back, used like my body weight and the strength of my arms, and I started pulling, just leaning back and pulling on him, you know. And I could feel, Harry, my arms, my legs, my back, everything pulling and injuring myself, basically. Yeah. But I thought, if I don't keep pulling, he's going to drown. Mm. And I managed to get him out. He was out on all fours and whatever. And I won't say the language that he used and whatever, but we basically got away with it. Anyway, I said, listen, we're going to have to get back up into your workshop and whatever. He had the heating on in there and whatever. Yeah. We got him back up there, and the funny thing about it was, Harry, he goes, I've got to be a little bit cunning here, son. I've got to be a little bit more cunning. I went, what are you on about? Because he stripped off. He had to strip off. He was soaking wet. So he was standing there.
Him in his boxers with all the bling on.
he was standing there in just his boxer shorts. And in his words, he looked like a dried up donut. And, anyway, he said, how am I going to get in the house? He said, pass Marie, get upstairs and get into a hot shower to warm myself up. Of course, me thinking I'm being smart, I said, well, you got your keys, go in the front door. So Marie's either going to be in the sitting room, because Bobby's got a big palatial place. I said, Marie's either going to be in the sitting room or she's going to be in the kitchen. And he went, good shout, we do that. Anyway, he goes plodding off to the front door, opens the front door, steps in, and there's Marie coming down the stairs. Look at him. What the bloody hell's going on, she said. And I went, Bobby, I'll see you later. And I skedaddled before there was a row. But yeah, that was basically it, Harry, really. And I said to Bobby that, listen, you can't ever, on days like today, you can't ever do things like that on your own. If I hadn't have been there, Harry, we joke about it now because it never happened. But if he'd have been there on his own, he'd have been floating. He'd have been floating in the middle of the lake because there's no way he could have pulled himself out because there was nothing to grab hold on to. And like I say, it was up to there at that point. He'd have been gone. Did
he reward you with anything? Did he give you like a necklace or a gold ring or anything to say thank you?
No.
That's poor.
No. I think the next time I went round, he got Marie to make me a cup of tea. That was about it.
That's the ultimate sign of respect as well, because, I mean, if Bobby did give you a bit of bling, you'd probably think it was a bit weird, because you don't really strike me as a jewellery person, Carl.
But the following day, though, Harry, Bobby's rung me as if nothing's happened. He goes, you coming over, son? You coming over? I went, I can't. He went, why? I said, I'm in the hospital. I was in the hospital because I'd pulled like ligaments in my shoulder and in my back and everything else, and I had to go up and get some muscle relaxant jabs and all things like that because of where I pulled him out of the water. But hey, there you go.
You're a hero, Lloydie. You're a hero. Right, let's get straight
I've been called worse.
Yeah, you have been called worse, and by me as well. Let's get straight into the action. Luke Humphries, the winner of Night 4 by beating Luke Littler 6-4 in Exeter. Like I mentioned at the top, first Premier League win over Luke Littler. Big confidence for the world number one going into the UK Open as well. Third final in the Premier League in 4 weeks. 2 wins to his name already in the Premier League. Came back after being 3-1 down to Luke Littler. There were certain points where he wasn't at his best, and he admitted in his interview as well, but he got over the line, and that's just what happens in sport. You don't need me to say that. Your back can be up against the wall, and you can come back and you can win. Gezi, Cross, Littler, he beat all 3 of them on the night. Lloydie, it seems like so far in 2025, Humphries can be sluggish in areas, but he always finds a way, doesn't he?
Do you know what, Harry? That's what great champions do, and that's what winners do. They always seem to find a way. The thing that did concern me a little bit with Luke, and I can't knock him because he's an absolutely fantastic dart player and a great champion. He never used to show much emotion up on the big stage. He used to just go about his business and get the job done, or if he did get beat, shake their hand, off he'd go, and he'd come back fighting another day. I've noticed last night he was very animated. He was thumbs up at the board if he hit a double. He was sort of like really beating himself up live on TV, and it's showing a different side of him, Harry. Do you not think it's something we've not really seen before?
Well, I know that he's spoken to a sports psychologist, and I know he's suffered earlier on in his career, he suffered from his anxiety and whatnot. But speaking to him as well, like he's told me, it's like he puts so much pressure on himself because he knows how good he is, not in an arrogant way, but he knows what to expect from himself. So he's just putting that pressure on. So if he's, say for instance, we know he's not the greatest 180 hitter of all time if you compare him to the likes of an MVG or a Luke Littler, that's fine because he'll pick up points elsewhere. But if he will have a dart that will drift, and this happens to everyone no matter what your ability is, where your dart will drift into a treble 5, for instance, that's just happened, that's life. But at the same time as well, he will kick himself, and we saw it yesterday in bursts where he was like swearing at himself sarcastically, like you mentioned, putting thumbs up to the board. But I'm starting to think that that's probably his coping mechanism. And I mean, the sports psychologist that he's worked with, probably if he or she is watching that match, will be like, God's sake, Luke, this is like, we've discussed this sort of situation. Do not swear at them. But people just have different coping mechanisms, like people, because they expect so much of themselves. I think anyone that's in the world of sport, and you have that sort of like space to breathe, and you'll see it with tennis players as well. I mean, it could be worse. At least he wasn't snapping the tungsten, which would be near on impossible on the hockey. But you think of like a Roger Federer or an Andy Murray completely battering a tennis racket, or I mean, you could probably imagine Nick Kyrgios launching a tennis ball into the crowd out of frustration at 100 miles per hour. But Lloyd, it makes me think though, is he, obviously it's him being so hard on himself, we'll always ask questions about that, X, Y and Z, but if he's not that hard on himself, and when he needs to dig deep, he might not be at the level that he is. Do you know what I mean? If he doesn't show those emotions, then he might not get over the line when things aren't actually going well for him. He might just have to go to that level.
He got there without beating himself, Harry. He got there without beating himself up on the dartboard, because that's the quality and the class of the young man. My advice to him would be, treat yourself as a horse, more carrot, less stick. He shows he's brilliant. He's a brilliant player. He doesn't need to beat himself up like that. And also, Harry, you've got the reverse psychology of that, of he's giving his opponents information as to how he's feeling. Yeah. With the body language, with the verbal. You don't want to give too much away in individual sport. You don't want to, he can... The brilliance of Luke Humphries showed at the end of his game with Rob Cross, because he reeled off 3 or 4 legs that were absolutely brilliant. Rob Cross could have possibly got through that match. But the last 2 legs especially, a 180 followed by a 167 checkout, and the last leg, a 180 followed by a 116 checkout. That was why, and that is why, he is the world number 1. He's the world number 1 for a reason. He's consistent. He's a fabulous dart player. Listen, if it works for him, Harry, if it works for him, that's great. But you're draining yourself of energy as well with all that extra pressure that you're putting yourself under. Just let it flow, let it happen. And he's that let it flow, let it happen sort of player that can produce brilliance, a bit like Luke Littler.
And it wouldn't take long. It wouldn't take long for the crowd to get involved as well, because if they're catching on the big screen or something like that he is frustrated, you get the occasional person that go, ooh, like he's throwing a strop X, Y, and Z, and then people start booing. And it would just probably, like the everyday person, I mean, these people are sports people, so they can probably block it out. But you mentioned against Rob Cross there, I just want to bring a couple of more statistics there. The 156 versus Gerwen Price in the third leg. Gezi was on 48. That's massive nuts from Luke Humphries. Big old clutch moments. Breaker throw against Gezi as well. Big win after losing to Gezi in Dublin as well. That had done massive things for his confidence. The 167 checkout to level it, and then the 116 to finish off Rob Cross. 12 darters. Sorry, I have to say it again. I have to say it again. Massive nuts from Luke Humphries, and that's just what us Newbury boys do. Crewe. We've got giant nuts and we can do anything. He's not from Crewe, he's from Newbury. Turnpike, exactly. That's exactly what we do, Lloydie. You know, we never shy away from any challenge. And Luke Humphries, well done, my friend. Well done. Let's just go and secure the UK Open. Right, there's plenty of more to get through, and I want to go straight to the second Luke now. Not the second Luke. It makes it sound like he's playing second fiddle. Luke and Luke, they're both equally as good as each other. Monstrous clash, really, with Stephen Bunting in his first game.
Yeah.
13 data to go 5-2 up. Record number of 180s in the new format. 10 against Stephen Bunting. 112 or 112 average, however you want to say it. 3-ton plus finishes against Nathan Aspinall. Oh, it just gets better and better and better. Nathan Aspinall didn't have a shot at double until I think the fourth leg. Yeah. 20 180s hit across the night. Did miss crucial darts in the final, but I don't think he'll be too hurt by this as well. I was writing these questions last night, Lloydie, and do you know what Luke Littler reminds me of? He's like, is it the T-1000 from Terminator 2? You keep killing him. You keep killing him, and he just morphs and comes back. It's like Luke Littler, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. It's like he is a product of artificial intelligence. He is a robot. He's a really lovely kid. I'm not saying that he's boring and that he's a robot like that, but the way that he plays and the accuracy of him. We're running out of things to say about Luke Littler, but it's obscene, Lloydie. Just the accuracy when he's really on fire. It's so. It's like watching at times Picasso. The dartboard is his canvas, and he's just making art constantly.
Well, Harry, that was deep.
It was deep.
That was deep.
I never thought an 18-year-old would make me feel this emotional.
I tell you what, let's touch on about his first game.
Yeah.
10 180s, like you say, a display in scoring. But when he's playing like that, and Harry, believe you me, when I was poorly, I wish I could have played like that. I wish I could have played like that when I was feeling well.
Yeah.
Poor old Stephen Bunting. He has 6 180s himself. Throw in a 105 checkout, and he's still just not getting over the line. And you feel sorry for him because he really is walking into it. But then you thought to yourself, wow, Luke Littler, that was absolutely brilliant. What are you going to do against Nathan Aspinall? Another ridiculous average, another 5 180s, another 3-ton plus checkouts. And then I think in the final, Harry, I think it just caught up with him in the fact that we'd already been told at the start of the evening that he was feeling a bit poorly, and you're still getting drained anyway by the games and the occasion, obviously, of the Premier League. You want to go up there and you want to perform at your best, and I just think, and it's not being disrespectful to Luke Humphries, because obviously he won the night.
Yeah.
I just think that Luke could put everything into those first 2 matches against Bunty and the Asp. And I just think it got towards the end of that match. When he went 4-3 up, I just think, the tank's empty.
Yeah, it's like he ran out of. It's like he was in an arcade and he ran out of like treble coupons or something like that.
That's it.
Like, he just an overabundance, and the tank ran dry. And listen, you mentioned Stephen Bunting there, and you mentioned Luke Littler feeling a bit under the weather. Nathan Aspinall felt under the weather in Dublin. So I'd hate for this. I don't want Stephen to feel under the weather, but maybe ahead of next week in Brighton, if Stephen Bunting can get the flu, maybe he might actually reach a final or semi-final like Nathan Aspinall and Luke Littler have done. That might be the common theme at the moment. If you're feeling a bit under the weather, you're digging deep and getting through games.
Listen, mate, they're all going down to the UK Open now, down at Minehead.
Oh, yeah.
Plenty of bodies around, plenty of fans around. Dare I say it, a few germs. Someone's going to turn up down there with a full head cold. Probably about 100 people will turn up with a head cold. It'll go around the room. And do you know what, Harry? The best thing that can happen is that all 8 players feel unwell next week. And I tell you what a night of darts we'll get then.
No, exactly. Everyone will be on form, averaging about 120. It'll be the best night of darts that we've ever seen in our entire lives. We always talk about this man every single week, and I'm worried about him, Michael van Gerwen. I'm not saying that I'm worried about him. Michael couldn't care what I've got to say. He's a 3-time world champion and 7-8-time Premier League champion at the same time as well. Out in the quarterfinal to Rob Cross, he hasn't been able to string 2 wins together since the Worlds. And we were saying at the turn of the year, coming into it, he was on fire. At Winmore as well, Winmore World Masters, went out to Dimitri Vandenberg, and still he was overthinking certain numbers and checkouts and whatnot. I mean, we're speaking every week about his form. How important is Butlin's going to be for Michael van Gerwen to just get a couple of wins under his belt and hopefully reach the latter rounds to then go into Brighton? Because it's to me, it's looking a bit worrying, mate.
Yeah, I think it's vital for his confidence, Harry. For Michael, there's patches of brilliance, patches of the old Michael, but there's a lot of junk thrown in between. Inconsistent scoring. The one thing you used to get with MVG was his finishing. His finishing used to be devastating, and that's what used to knock it out of you a little bit, Harry. Because it was the clutch finishing that you think, well, I've got a chance here. Pop, pop, pop. And, you just think to yourself, can't believe that. Then he'll do it again the next leg. Then he'll do it again the next leg. Whereas now, I think the players are playing him and they're thinking to themselves, Joe, what's right? I've got a chance here.
Yeah.
He hasn't been taken out these sort of shots. And he's not. And sometimes, Harry, he's not even close.
Yeah.
Listen, do I think we should hit the panic button about Michael van Gerwen? I don't think we're at that stage yet. But it is worrying where you see, say, like the World Masters, like you say, Harry. He was playing beautiful. He was playing lovely. Then all of a sudden, it was just like, he wasn't a pub player, but he was just an average dart player with a 90 average.
Yeah.
Who was more than capable of being beat on the day by any given player.
Yeah, I think his last couple of games have been in the region of 93 to 95 free dart average as well.
And Harry, do you know what? They're not bad averages.
No, they're not.
But when you're up against people that are banging in 100 plus averages, you've got to keep up with. You've got to average at least 97 to 100. You can't go 90 to 93. You've got to be averaging 97 to 100 to stay in check with them.
Do you think he's going to win a night? Do you think he's going to win a final? I know we've got 13 nights to go. Do you actually think he's going to win a night?
Yeah. Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, he's too good a player to not win a night. There'll be a night where, Harry, it'll all come together, and I'm not going to say he's going to blow everyone away, but he'll hit consistency for a night, and I think he'll win a night. Why do you not think he'll win a night then?
Well, I mean, I think it's dead certain that if he doesn't win a Rotterdam, then I mean anything can happen. But he'll be so fired up for that, especially playing. I think it's Stephen Bunting that he's got in the first match as well. But I just don't know at the moment. I need to go through and see what's going to happen at Minehead as well. But you can't really discount a player like Michael van Gerwen because he's not just like an average pub player now, is he? He's the greatest darts player of this generation, really. Yeah. Do you think he'll qualify for the top four? Because the one thing I will say, Harry, about him, he's putting points on the board. Yeah, that's true.
Last night he didn't. But one thing Michael does is he puts points on the board.
Top four at the moment. Maybe just because at the moment my top three is Luke Littler, Luke Humphries and Gerwen Price.
Yeah.
And then you got a further toss up of that with, I don't know, who do you say probably is going to be competing with those at the same time? Aspinall, no. Bunting would probably be your person after that, but still isn't really being able to put points on the board in the Premier League as well. But if he can, I don't know, find that form, then probably it is Stephen Bunting that's going to go into that top four. But I think Michael will be in that top four, but I think he would probably just edge it. Do you not think?
I think he'll get into the top 4. I think he will, because he's someone that picks up points.
Yeah.
And so where he's picking up points, Harry, see the pressure, I don't like to say it, but the pressure's building on Stephen Bunting.
Yeah.
He still sat there with 0 points after 4 weeks. And now we're going into week 5, and he must be thinking to himself, where am I going to get a win from? I'm playing okay, I'm playing all right. But I still haven't put any points on the board.
It'd probably be Crossy at the same time as well. I think people are disregarding what Rob Cross is able to do and his ability. I think a lot of people give Rob Cross a bit of a hard time because, you get people that say we didn't really deserve to win it in 2018. It was just a bit of a one-trick play and he flashed in the pan. And I was like, I don't agree with that, to be honest with you. I think Rob is insane. But if like I mentioned, I know a lot of people probably listen to this and thinking that Stephen Bunting won't make it into the top 4. But if he can have an unbelievable run over the next couple of weeks, then why not? The tables can turn can change instantly and so differently at the same time as well. Chris Dobey, like we mentioned, and the old adage with Chris Dobey, which I thought about last night, was what you always say to me. Was it trebles for show, doubles for dough? And Chris Dobey is racking up some unbelievable points all over the board. His maxes last night were sensational, but it was just the thought on those doubles. It just wasn't Chris's night.
Yeah, no, listen, I totally agree with you. He threw some really good stuff last night, and it was only the tenacity of Nathan Aspinall that stopped him, because the one thing with Nathan, he won't go away. And at 4-all, he banged in a 180 and a very crucial 80 checkout. And that gave him the 5-4 advantage. Don't get me wrong, Chris made it 5-all. But then, again, the class of Asp, he banged in a 180. That gave him control of the leg. And Chris didn't get a shot.
Yeah. Very, very strange. I mean, is there something in as well, playing your best friend? Like, I know obviously you're both professionals and stuff like that, but does something happen like psychologically with you when you're so close to someone like him and Nathan Aspinall are, that you just don't really have that edge when you're playing someone that you're so close with? Or do you just go into a different realm inside of your brain and just forget about it?
If you haven't, Harry, change job. The amount of times I played, one of my best pals on tour was Roland Shelton.
Yeah.
And, I used to stay at Roland and Mariah's house. Roland and Mariah used to come and stop with me. Everything travelled the world together, basically. But as soon as, if the draw panned out that Colin Lloyd versus Roland Shelton, we'd go walking over to the board together, start preparing, and then shake each other hands, wish each other the best, and then I wanted to just tear his throat out.
Yeah. Well, because it's like best friends, like brothers, isn't it? And you don't want like your brother to beat you at anything.
No, that's it. That's all part of professional sport, Harry. I'm afraid. You've got to be able to flick that switch. He wants what you want. Yeah. And if you pamper along with that, he's going to take it. Well, I don't know about you, Harry, but when I was younger, or when I was competing, if someone wanted to take something from me, they got to take it.
Yeah.
You're not going to just hand it over.
Last thing I'll say before we get our guest on, Gerwen Price will probably be kicking himself as well. What was it, 6 starts at tops last night against Luke Humphries. Finished off with the single at the same time as well. But, I mean, you can't have it all sometimes, can you? And Gerwen is a phenomenal player. He's been class in 2025 so far. Secured the win in Dublin. But he'll be wanting to get off to a flyer, won't he, in Minehead, off the back of going out against Luke Humphries.
Yeah, of course he will, yeah. I mean, the guys have got a little bit of a wait because they obviously come in later on in the event. So they'll know who they're going to play after, I think, tonight or tomorrow afternoon and whatever. And listen, it's just game on. It's another tournament. It's another event, albeit that it's a major. This is what they call the FA Cup of Darts. And, there's some people out there, Harry, that can spring surprises. So the one thing, not just for Gezi, but for all the so-called top guns, you've got to be on your guard, because you could walk into someone who's played 2, maybe 3 games, and if you're not match sharp, match ready, you could be going home very early.
Yeah, we want Gerwen to get to the latter rounds as well, don't we? Just for the drama of it, because like he makes me. I used to hate him, like not like hate him just as an actual human being. Like he just used to just grind on my gears as a fan, and it's the same thing. It always happens when I meet someone or I interview someone, and I just go, God, I couldn't have been more wrong about that person. Like they're actually so lovely, but and you're like, but that's just the high level of sport, isn't it? And people need to get their heads into different places to make sure they get over the line. Listen, we've got an absolute legend waiting in the wings, and I'm pleased to say that former world number one, 3-time world finalist Peter Manley joins us now. Peter,
how are we doing, lads?
How we doing, mate? Mr. Amarillo himself. How are you?
Very good, very good.
You know what, Peter? I was whenever I'm feeling a bit blue, feeling a bit down, and I advise this to any darts fan. The 2006 walk on Amarillo. I'm saying to anyone now, if you're going through a tough time, just watch that video, and it'll lift your spirits. Peter, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, walk on darts has ever seen.
It all. I was with my wife. I get up, I get knocked down again, and Peter Kay had done that comic relief.
Yeah.
Video, and the wife said that'd be a good one for you to copy, and that's say I never looked back really.
Yeah, I mean, no, you didn't get the call up, to be honest, for the comic relief video, because that would have added a few like nice. Imagine, was it Ronnie Corbett was in it as well? Imagine you and Ronnie Corbett were, doing a little dance walking down the street with Peter Kay.
Yeah, I'm not sure they'd have a strong enough. Walking machine.
Don't say that about yourself. Don't say that, Peter. Listen, Premier League last night, absolutely phenomenal. How impressed have you been with Luke Humphries? Me and Colin were just discussing about him getting in his own head. He made it and won the night. Fantastic, played some great stuff. But when you're seeing a player that's muttering to themselves, swearing at the board almost sometimes as well, where's his head at? Like, is that something that he needs to work on, or is that just his coping mechanism?
Well, to be honest, Colin's perfectly right. I mean, he gives too much away. In my day, I'd have probably ruined him by now. It's something he's got to learn himself. He can't. But he can't have people telling him. He's got to understand that when he's going to the board, he is going to throw some bad scores, and it will happen. And you just got to get over it and move on.
What would you have done to him? Because obviously you were the master of the dark arts on the hockey, and I'm sure you're proud of it, and you should be really proud of it, because it is an art form, what you had, Peter Manley. Not only were you good at darts, you were so good at getting people riled up and getting in their heads. If you were on that hockey with Luke Humphries, what would you have done?
Well, I don't think we could just pick Luke Humphries out. I think all of these top superstars at the moment, I would have loved to have had a little bite at them, because they're so vulnerable. They're so friendly at the moment, but that changes over a course if they keep getting beat. I mean, even Luke Humphries mentioned that he'd been beat 6 times by Luke Littler. So, hey, if you're remembering scores, then you've got a problem already. You shouldn't be remembering scores, because each event finishes, a new one starts. So it didn't matter whether you've been beat 20 times or once. It shouldn't matter who you play. Not at that standard of darts.
Is it? Yeah. Has it got on a bit too soft?
I'd have got into that. The thing is, if you watch football, you watch Man United play a team from Italy. They're going to send a guy over and watch their team for a few weeks, see what players are doing what and whatever. Well, if I was playing you, Harry, I would know everything about you. I'd know if your cat died. I'd know everything about you, and I would bring it up on stage. I would talk to you about it. How's your cat sleep? Oh, it died. So, but I knew it died. But that was just a minor thing. There'd be plenty of things that I would try to get in your head so your trail of thought was completely wrong for playing a game of darts.
God, that actually makes me feel like Peter Manley knows so much about my life.
I done it so good once in Vegas that Colin Lloyd chased me to the toilet.
Go on, please tell more. Lloydie, remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
And what did Mr. Manley say to you?
Listen, that's Peter's story to tell. I don't tell anyone about that.
Peter, the floor's yours.
Oh, it was fantastic. He came. I'd gone for during the first break. I'd gone to the toilet just for a quick wee, and Colin come bursting in the doors. If you want it that bad, you can have it. Well, the ref followed him as well, and I just turned around to the ref and said, "There you go. We'll call it off now. That's it. It's all finished." But we went back on, and he's a lovely guy, Colin, and I smashed him up.
Cole, was that premeditated that the referee was coming at the same time as well?
No, he was obviously he was raging. He was raging. I done it so I was so good at what I did, and he just bit, and that was it. He was away.
Peter Manley with that bait on the fishing line.
I mean, even to be fair, the final against John Park, I knew that once John Park had beaten Phil Taylor in Vegas, he'd have gone out celebrating. Now, what he probably forgot was, because of the time difference, you're starting at 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what John forgot, and he wasn't ready for. I got a lead, and he never called me up, and that's why I probably went on and won.
Well, that's the thing that I was going to ask when I was going through my notes last night. 2003 Desert Classic in Las Vegas. Was it MGM Grand? I mean, you can't get a better venue for if it's sporting and playing darts in there at the same time. Big names in Sin City yourself. Cole over there as well. How did you compose yourself ahead of playing in Las Vegas with the time difference? There's so much that could go wrong in a city like Las Vegas. You've got the gambling, you've got other seedy areas that we won't get into in that city. But was it just a full-blown party the whole time?
No. As Colin will probably relate, once the dart starts, you're at work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. I mean, a professional player like myself, you go out a week before, and just to enjoy Vegas, you stay a week after. So that party time, like you're saying, doesn't really happen till afterwards.
Well, you won it, Peter, and now I've got to ask you, can you tell us any stories about how you celebrated? I would say keep it PG, but I'm going to let you have free reign on this one, my friend.
Well, I actually, when I won it, I actually asked the lady that I was courting at the time to marry me. So, and then we got married the following year at the Flamingo in Vegas. So, Vegas has a little sentimental touch for us.
Did Cole get an invite, or was it?
Everyone was invited, but Phil Taylor didn't turn up, unfortunately.
Whoa! What is like? Why did
he was invited?
Yeah, but how did he reject that? Did he just not reply?
I don't think. I think he thought it was a pay bar, and, you know.
Oh.
He never has anything in his pocket other than chalk.
How is your relationship with Phil these days? Because obviously it was such a fiery rivalry that you had. I mean, the finals that you played in, some of the greatest darting moments of all time, and such sporting drama. Is it still like the same? Do you still have that sort of like bitterness towards each other, or is that all brush under the carpet?
To be honest, I never really had any bitterness. It's what they call sense of humour, and although Taylor has got one, he didn't really understand my line of sense of humour, and he took it quite personally of a few times when he didn't really need to. But our paths don't cross all that much now. We've both got similar problems that we can't throw as good as what we used to. But No, I've got nothing against Phil Taylor, and Phil's already said that it must have bothered him, because he has said to me, "Oh, we haven't got a problem now, have we?" And I thought, well, we didn't have then. It was just a wind up, just to try and beat you. You know, it's no one ever. Everyone gave Phil Taylor respect and whatever. And don't get me wrong, he's the GOAT. So he should have had respect, but I just wasn't that player to give it to him. I wanted to beat him. I wanted to go home and have some posh food on my table, not his.
Is he the GOAT still for you as well? Do you have?
Oh God, yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. No one. It'd be very, very hard to copy that. And obviously, Luke Littler coming along, he's got great possibilities. But how much money will he have before he says call it a day?
Yeah. Well, especially with Barry Hearn this month announcing the new pay structure for the Worlds as well. I remember speaking to Josh Rock I think it was in January, and I was asking him how long until the Worlds, the winners prize fund, how long until that is going to be £1 million, or if a tournament opens up in Saudi, because Barry said, and obviously Barry's always been like, I love the smell of money. I can smell money everywhere. If they get a major tournament in Saudi Arabia, and you're looking at sums that could be about £2.5 million. Luke Littler, 10 years' time, when he's 28, could be like, do you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to be a YouTuber or something like that. I'm an internet celebrity. Do you just see the prize money is just going to, because of someone like Luke Littler and taking the darts to another level, almost like it was in its heyday and getting towards that? Do you think? Go on.
I think first off, the players really just ought to thank the PDC for the work and their working ethic that goes into this prize money, like where it's basically, if you was a supermarket, you'd be at the front of the till, in the best place, and that's where Barry Hearn's put you. You can't complain about anything, but players still do, because as chairman of the players, we still get these minor complaints, and we've just had a few recently. I do worry about them, with all this money. It changes people's lives, and it is life changing. Luke Littler's, who'd have ever thought a 17-year-old would come along, whip the Premier League, whip the World Championship, be the most probably watched player ever in such a short period of time.
How do you think he's dealing with the limelight and his superstar status over the last 13, 14 months?
I think it's perfect. It's quite funny. Everyone I don't have one, but most people have a bucket list when they get a little bit older. Colin will find that as he gets to my age. But I actually done an exhibition with Luke Littler. It was an 8-person event, and they put me against Luke, so it's pretty obvious they wanted Luke in the next round. But it was 2-2. It was 2-2, and it was in the last leg, and I'm standing behind him thinking, well, they won't want me to win. It was a weird. Don't worry, he hammered me the last leg, but it was a pleasure to have played the young man and say that I could now actually say I've played him. But it's phenomenal what he's done, and for me personally, it's just relit something that may have been getting a little bit stagnant, and has just put some new life into it, along with Luke Humphries and the others that are actually playing some extremely, extremely talented darts.
I know you're probably bored of hearing this, and I'm bored of asking this question because it's such a cliche, but it's got to be done, Peter. Do you think he will eclipse Taylor? We say the amount of money in the bank that he could call it quits, X, Y, and Z at an earlier age, but if he wants to stick at it and play into his late 40s, early 50s, which like a lot of players do already and have done for such a long time, do you think he will overtake Taylor's 16 world titles?
He could quite easily. I actually look at him, and I don't think he's very the thing with him that looks very similar to Taylor is he's not bothered about the money. He doesn't look bothered about the money. I can openly say I did it for the money. I didn't do it for any other reason other than winning the most I could, and the most I could was to win an event. He's interested in partaking and winning the event, and you can see that in him. You listen to him; he's very intelligent in his replies and his talking. You know, he's done things that probably Phil Taylor wished he had the opportunity. You know, to be on Ross's show and every show that he's been on is Bullseye. You know, he gets asked above and beyond everyone else, and the reason is because of the popularity.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like the superstar status as well, and especially as the young audience that it's going to bring to darts at the same time. And I mentioned about like the internet celebrity part. I mean, I'm not expecting you to know who Angry Ginger's, Peter, but it's one of the biggest YouTubers in the country, and even he's collaborating with Luke Littler now at the same time, and his following's massive. So it's all good stuff for the next generation of dart player that's going to come through, and hopefully we can get it added more to the school curriculum and get a fresh bed of players coming through. Because I mean, kids will be seeing this and just be going like, "Mum, Dad, I want to be like Luke Littler," and he picked up darts, well, like even if it was magnetic ones, at about what 18 months old, and you know, it's just one of those things where I wish my old man had done that for me, because then I probably wouldn't be in the Premier League or anything like that, because I'm absolutely useless. But a couple of questions. I bumped into your old mate Adrian Lewis recently at the Moda Super Series launch with Pluto TV. What a lovely bloke Adrian Lewis is. I had a great laugh with him. When Adrian stormed off the stage in 2006, are you able to tell us, obviously, because we've already spoken about you, the dark arts and getting inside people's heads, what did you say that made him walk off?
Well, first off, just let me tell you that he is my wife's favourite player. So it was very difficult. The actual, obviously, that year that he played was his first year, and Sky was just continually, it's going to be a Phil Taylor, Adrian Lewis final. And the great thing is, when you hear things like that continuous, it gets in your head. So first thing I wanted to do was stop that. And I went on that stage and played him. And if you looked at the game right the way through, you will see that I'm absolutely beating him. There's no problem with it whatsoever. But he'll deny it, because he did. I turned around and said, "You're tutting behind me as I'm throwing." And he went, "No, I'm not." I said, "Yes, you are." He went, "It was just like a pantomime." So I carried on. I'd missed. And when he had his throw, he complained to Russ Bray about something or other, probably about the tutting. And because I'm not one to just let people just carry on doing what they're doing. If it's upsetting me in any way, I'll tell them. And if I can turn it around and upset them, even better. But he won the leg. He went back to the table. He came back to the hockey to throw. And I just turned around and said, "You're having a laugh. Like, get on with it," because he was just messing about. It was like a pantomime, and it was, you're having a laugh. And that's all I said. And the next thing is he walked off. And do you know what? I must have earned £30,000-40,000 from that. People loved it. They loved it. They wanted me to book me for exhibitions and everything round up and down the country. It was one of the best things I'd ever done. And being hated already from not shaking Taylor's hand a few years before that, and getting booed everywhere I go, I suddenly realised how much money there is to be made as the most hated dart player.
Well, I asked Adrian who he thought the biggest villain was in darts. So would you go for yourself?
No, I think I was a clever villain. I think Eric will be the one that really gave it to everyone to start with. Eric Bristow.
Who would you say, Cole? Who was the biggest villain that you came up against, or the biggest villain in darts history?
Oh, Peter's being very modest. It's definitely Peter. Of course it is. No, it's not. It's not. Like Peter said, Peter was very clever in the way he done it. And he done it for a certain reason. Whereas, I don't like to speak ill about the dead, but Eric could be quite nasty with it. He was vocal before he actually engaged his brain to say something to you. Sometimes he regretted it afterwards, sometimes he didn't, sometimes he stood by it. But, yeah, I would say Eric was the first.
Eric was brilliant. He was. I played him in the Worlds. It was the same day that I just qualified for the last four in the British Open. Got the train all the way back down and bus to Purfleet. Played Eric last on, and Eric came up to me, just as I would do to other players later on in life. But Eric came up and said, "You're playing in front of my people now. Let's see how good you are." And I was walking on first, and I've gone out there, and the crowd is just Bristol, and I was so nervous. I beat him 9-0.
It's like Brazil versus Germany 2014 World Cup, beating them on his own patch 7-1.
He absolutely. Unfortunately for Eric, he had he wasn't playing particularly well, but he had a stinker as well. I think he only had 140 in the whole game, and that was in the last leg. But no, it's just one of those things. But I mean, to be honest, to go out there at the beginning, it was just. Well, it's a learn. See, I look at these things as learning. These players now, they just go out, and because one of the things I always ask the player is, can you act? He said, what do you mean act? I said, well, you'll need to act. You'll need to put a false face on, and there's going to be times when you're going to have to apologise to someone and look like you mean it. They're just so lovable now, these guys. They're all earning a great salary. They're all taking money home. But there are going to be people that are falling off a little bit. And I think we should, obviously, there are players out there, they know who they are, that are dropped off and that are not in the Premier League now. And they've got some hard work to get back up to where they want to be. It's not going to be easy. You've already said it. I think the whole game over the next 5-10 years is going to be completely different. We didn't used to come into it till your kids are grown up, your mortgage is under control, and you was able, your wife let you go out and play darts. Now the mums are taking the kids already, so they're just going straight from school onto a dartboard. It's totally different life.
Peter, let's look ahead to Night 5 Premier League. Quick fire predictions from you for both Brighton and Minehead UK Open this weekend. We'll start with Minehead. Who do you see coming out on top? Dimitri Vandenberg, can he retain his title, or are we going to see a dark horse or one of the top 10?
I think there's so many people playing well. Wessel Nyman it comes to mind. I think someone like Joe Cullen, who hasn't, who keeps saying he hasn't performed or he's a bit upset and wants a bit more respect. I think it's time for these guys to unleash their talent and show everyone what they got. Anyone can win this event. And
next Thursday in Brighton, is it going to be Luke Humphries making it 3 nights 1, or is Stephen Bunting going to bounce back and finally put some points on the board?
Well, I'm a great fan of Steve Bunting. I think he's done extremely well over the last 2 years. But yeah, as Colin already sort of reiterated, you can't always buy a win. You can play well and not win. And Stephen Bunting's found that to be difficult. I've always looked at the Premier League as a concern rather than just looking for darts, because these players, it can affect them overall. But Steve Bunting against Nathan Aspinall next week, that's like a must win, but it's a must win for both.
Yeah,
and they're both playing extremely well, so it's going to be tough. Hey, Luke Humphries is getting away with it. Luke Humphries is getting away with it, and he knows it. He knows he's getting away. He knows he can. He knows he should be playing a lot better. He should be finishing. Those 6 starts from Gezi that he missed last night. That's not good. That's not good to see. That's not good to see from anyone, because you're watching it because you want to see straight out finish.
Peter, thank you so much for your time. Have a good weekend. Hopefully I'll speak to you again soon, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers, Carl.
Cole, what a man, honestly. True titan of the game. And I think he's right in some ways. You don't really have characters like Manley anymore. I mean, the only way that you're going to get in players' heads is like a Gezi Price celebration, and that's the closest you sort of get to it. I mean, we saw, a couple of years back, you had the Michael van Gerwen and Luke Humphries having words on stage. But, I mean, you do it with your mates, you do it with your siblings, where you're trash talking them all the time. Do you think we're missing those Manley sort of characters?
In some ways, yeah. I think you are. I mean, the thing with Peter, he was a character. He's a character. Not was. We still see each other an awful lot, myself and Peter, and his lovely wife, Chrissy. But what people don't remember as well, Harry, or not say don't remember, that's probably the wrong word, just probably forget, is what a great dart player Peter Manley was. There were times when Peter, there was no shenanigans, as people might say. Peter might just turn up, and he was more than capable of blowing you away on the dartboard. And so it's not all about Peter Manley, was he the pantomime villain or whatever. The same with Gezi, I suppose. Gezi is sort of like taking the mantle of the pantomime villain. The crowd always boo when he goes on or whatever. And in the same ilk as Peter, such a class player. And then you move him away from the hockey. It's all about business, Harry, and work. And that's what I was saying earlier to you, or trying to say to you earlier about with Nathan Aspinall playing Chris Dobie.
Yeah.
You have to be able to switch off a friendship. You switch off the friendship because you're at work. And the person standing next to you, even though he might be your best mate, he wants something that you want. Well, you want it more, so you've got to work for it. And those guys just go about their business. Is there characters now? In their own way, I suppose they're characters in their own way. Yeah. Michael, if he does something good, he does the like this sort of thing, but is that really being a character? Michael's great in the fact that he speaks his mind. A lot of them speak their mind. But there's no shenanigans on the stage anymore. There's no tit for tat going on, which would be nice for TV, I think. A little bit of a spat, Harry, live on TV in a major doesn't hurt anyone. Yeah. You're going to get DRA fined, but hey, listen, pay the fine, and it was all great entertainment.
I know, and you've got a couple of million views on Twitter, Instagram, who cares? And darts is getting viewed by even more people, baby. Listen, Cole, I'm being told that I need to stop because people need to come into this studio. Listen, people, okay. Night 5, March 6th, next Thursday, the Brighton Centre. The quarterfinals are as followed. Gerwen Price versus Michael van Gerwen. Can MVG win his first night of the Premier League season? Luke Littler versus Chris Dobie. Rob Cross versus Luke Humphries. Stephen Bunting versus Nathan Aspinall. Cole, I bid you a farewell. Have a good weekend. UK Open, and I'll speak to you next Friday. Please make sure you like and subscribe just down below to the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel to keep across everything in the darting world, the Premier League, the UK Open. We've got it covered. All of our watch-alongs next week, live and exclusive on the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel. Make sure you check that out. A phenomenal lineup of talent that we'll have for you there as well. I'll see you next week, next Friday. Don't miss it. That's talkBULL. See you later. Get those sunglasses out because it's very sunny if you're in London or the south. Let's do this. Cannot wait to speak to you next week. See you later.